Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I'm surprised by so many people. And thank you to the Marblehead Conservancy and Abbot Public Library for sponsoring this. It's very nice to be here. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about local wildlife and photography of it. I do not claim to be an expert at either. I'm self-taught on the photography front. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. And I guess it's sort of the engineer in myself that gets very obsessed about a subject, and I just research it and learn it and do it, and just constantly trying to better myself at it. As Bob said, I grew up in Marblehead. I live there with my two daughters and my wife. We live by Steer Swamp. I am the keeper of the trail maps on Stony Brook Road. So if it's empty, I'm the one you can yell at. At Applied Materials in Gloucester, we build semiconductor equipment. So this is quite different from what I'm used to doing during the day. And that's probably why I do it. Always enjoyed the outdoors and wildlife. I would say my love of birds probably started with my grandparents, Martha Alden and Evelyn Clay. I remember going over their houses as a kid. Always had a bird feeder. We were always filling it up for them. Always had a pair of binoculars to see the action. It just kind of stuck with me. I mean, even at my house now, I have bird feeders. I have binoculars and about 15 years ago, we had a really big influx of snowy owls in the area. There was a lot of newspaper articles and things like that. And I became obsessed with seeing a snowy owl. Like I really wanted to see a snowy owl. So I would venture up to Parker River and Crane Beach and, with snowshoes half the time, hiking down the beach just to see the snowy owl. And I managed to see a few. And back then I had a cell phone and a point and shoot camera or something. And, it looked like a, cotton ball in a snowfield or something. Like you really didn't see a whole lot. So I started sort of upping my game. Maybe my obsession grew then. Buying my first DSLR, telephoto lens, and then, as things progress, you get bigger and better. Go down that wormhole. For equipment, I use Nikon. No particular reason. You just got to kind of pick a brand and go with it because nothing's interchangeable. So I started with a small Nikon, built a bunch of lenses with it, and have constantly upgraded. So I have a smaller. This is something that I use in the woods, carry it around. It's got a little shoulder strap, not too heavy to lug around. And this is great for stuff that's moving and you got to turn quick and get your pictures. Sometimes this monopod just helps you steady your shot. Free holding a camera, even that size, is not easy. More static images to capture, birds in nests or, coyotes out far in a field kind of hanging out. I stick with this. This is a 500 prime Nikon lens with a full frame camera and this carbon fiber tripod. One thing I learned real fast was spend money on your tripod. The cheap tripods don't do it. When you're shooting something that's half a football field away, any little vibration just destroys the picture. It's all blurry and whatnot. Even to the point where when I want to see, an owl's whiskers on a tree, 100 feet away, I don't even touch the camera when I'm taking the shot. I do the quick focus, use a shutter release just so you can take the picture without touching the camera and introducing any vibration into the photo. And it makes a big difference. Well, first of all, a lot of people always ask me where I take my photos. It's kind of a loaded question, but it's everywhere. Like very rarely do I walk into the woods to say, I'm going to go find this. It's more like I'm walking around the woods to see what I can find. And when you see things like barred owls or great horned owls or things like that, they usually hang in the area for a while. I mean, a couple of years ago, I found one, a great horn in Black Joe's. It was there every day. you could go in there and it was like a game of hide and seek. You just walk around, where is it today? And sure enough, you'd see it. But, I go to Robinson's Farm, going to Steer Swamp, Hawthorne Cove, Wyman Woods, Gulfweight, the Bird Sanctuary. Bird Sanctuary is great. And then I'll go Forest River, Parker River, Salisbury, Ipswich. And then, as we said, I work up in Gloucester, so I'll stop anywhere in between. If I see something that says, oh, woodland, I'm in there, just seeing what's in there. And when I find something, I go back, right? If I find a nest or something, I'm going to keep going back until I see something in there. Ooh. The way I organize these is by the seasons of the year. It's just easier. Run through what I'm doing during the summer, and then so on. I'm going to end with what I'm getting into now, spring. So, now this photo, ironically, was taken with a smaller lens, which you wouldn't think of the Milky Way, but very easy photo to capture. It's literally a 30-second image on a tripod at Gulfweight. The hardest part is figuring out where the Milky Way is because you can't see it with your eye. So you use a app such as Photo Pills, and it's sort of like an augmented reality where you can see through your phone and see where the Milky Way is. And you aim your camera there and you keep taking shots until one comes out right. On a continuous setting, so I was able to run up and make a cameo. And do.
Would you want to have the lights turned down a bit?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Another thing I do in the summer, it's great. I set up what I call a bird studio in my backyard. I literally put bird feeders out there, plant flowers around there, and it attracts things like hummingbirds. So hummingbirds fly all over, they're crazy. They're going a million miles an hour. But if you have everything in one place, you know where they're going to be. So I'll sit in my back patio on a lawn chair, veg out, have my camera pointed towards the flowers, and it's very easy to get a picture, So this is something that I would take on the 500 prime here. Can't get rid of that audio thing up there.
Get rid of that. There we go. Can't get rid of the audio message.
The hummingbird's wings beat so fast. This picture was taken at 1/4000th of a second, and it still doesn't stop the action. I mean, but they're pretty inquisitive little animals. They'll come around and kind of buzz you, and when there's two they'll have battles in your yard and stuff. Great. Another visitor that you get in the backyard is the hummingbird moth, which is really a neat little moth. They're, maybe 3-4 inches. Their wings are almost translucent, transparent. Down to the macro scale. So, this is probably a 1/2 of an inch. Running around the backyard with the camera, just see what you can get. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's kind of gross. Life, a lot of frogs, a lot of turtles, stuff that's very easy to get. You can sit on the edge of Red's Pond or Black Joe's or whatever, and you just kind of wait for something to happen. You start seeing movement out of the corner of your eye. You're like, oh, look, there's something. White herring. This was hanging out in Steer Swamp. They come every year, and they usually stick around for a good amount of time. And I've been up there and seen as many as, 5, 6, 7 in the same area. The green heron eating a frog. This is one that I was literally sitting on the edge of Black Joe's Pond, just waiting for something to happen. Happened to be in the right spot, at the right time. The irony of this is that I am probably the least patient person in the world. Sit on a rock and look at blank water all day long and be happy as can be. You're rewarded. Then, of course, you get the ospreys, which are great. I mean, they're just starting to come back now. They're starting to populate their nests around Salem again. Last year there was 4 or 5 osprey nests right in Salem Sound between Salem and Marblehead and all the day markers. feet to the things, and they just sit there and squawk. We'll be out there fishing, and they'll come down and dive for the pogies that are in the harbor. A lot of times the eagles will come down and they'll start harassing them. I've actually been out fishing, seen the eagles, seen them going up to Peaches Point, and then gone home, put the car away, grabbed my camera, drove around Peaches Point, and found the eagle sitting in a tree and got a photo of it. Oyster catchers are great. I mean, when you're out in the water, you can hear them coming. You know, you can hear beep, 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 beep. And you just see 4 or 5 of them buzz you. These guys hang out at Riverhead all the time. They're right off of the rocks at like Peter Lynch's house, like that area. Really cool. Photo was really neat. It happened to be August 27th was my birthday. I took the day off from work to take the day off from work. So I brought my camera, and this was inside of Halfway Rock, where you could have seen it from Castle Rock. And there's 2 humpbacks just destroying a school of heron. And I just happened to be there, got some photos. He's actually made the papers and stuff, so that was kind of neat. To see an animal this size so close. In the background here, far away. I mean, you're not getting too close to 200, 300 feet, something like that. You bring that's a 150 to 600 zoom, so you can get in pretty tight. Once in a while I see this, everybody freaks out. Just a basking shark, but cool to see, scare some people. They have enough time to send up the drone. No, I have a love-hate with drones. Like, I think drones are really cool just from an engineering standpoint, but I don't want them flying over my house. Like, but bringing them out on the water, you see some really neat stuff. So this was just a basking shark right out by Halfway Rock, cruising around. And Huey pulling some traps. I mean, the Abbot Hall in the background. There are so many seals out off of Devereaux. It's insane. Hundreds of them at times. To the boat. This was probably 10 feet. The fall. Now, fall is when I really start doing photography. Sort of in that tuna season, but start getting out more in the woods. So this was actually in Steer Swamp. Barred owls. There's really no trick to finding them. It's just walking around and walking around. When I'm looking for barred owls or great horned owls, I'm always looking in the pine trees. I'm always looking close to the main trunk of the pine tree. They're not always there, but that's where I always start. One day in Steer Swamp, I was looking at a pine tree and a fisher stuck his head out the corner. And I was like, already, and I missed it. That was like my lifetime shot. I missed it. But barred owls are really neat because they tend to stick around. If you see one in an area and keep going back, you may not see it all the time, but it'll be there. Again, this was right right around the pond, Steer Swamp. I heard the chickadees and the nuthatches going crazy. Now that's another way you can find these owls. Is you listen and you don't hear the owls so much. You can, but it's usually the chickadees, the nuthatches, the crows, the blue jays going crazy in some little area. And if you just go over and start looking around, like very often it's either they're harassing a hawk or an owl, which is amazing because a hawk or an owl could take out any of these birds. This is a really cool, this is a northern saw-whet owl, and they are probably all of 5 inches tall. Seen one in the Marblehead Bird Sanctuary. This one was actually in Salem. A friend of mine had spotted it. He was out birding, and he's like, "Yeah, I come see this thing." So managed to see it. Very cool owl. eastern screech owls. Some are gray, some are red. I have no idea why. Just different morphs. This is the same hole, different years. So it's not a mating couple that I know of, but the same hole. This was in actually Green Lawn Cemetery. Unfortunately, the tree is no longer there. How many trees I found owls in, and within 4 or 5 years, the trees are just gone. Because these screech owls really tend to go to these old dead trees. There's one, this was on the tracks, actually. A friend of my father-in-law's called my father-in-law. Was like, you gotta tell Rick, there's a screech owl down the tracks. And fourth, finally found him. And over the years, I've seen a red one in there, I've seen a brown one in there, you know. This one, you probably know where this tree is. So for 20 years, I've driven home from Gloucester. And when I cross the border at Lead Mills, and you get up by Carner Road, there's a tree with a big hole in it. And every day I'm like, there's got to be an owl in there someday. Like if I was an owl, that's where I'd be. And 3 or 4 times I've seen something in it. Wheeled around, jumped out of my car. 2 other times it was squirrels, but 2 of the times were eastern screech owls. And they're only there for like the one day. Hasn't seen them, don't see them for another year or 3. Pretty cool, like literally just driving by seeing it. A lot of these screech owls I see from the road. Like this one. But if you walk through Steer Swamp, you'll find it.
Oh.
Random stuff. This is me driving to work in the morning, my camera next to me, pulling out of Stony Brook Road, just sitting there, you know, but, you know, even though he's probably eating my trash the night before, it makes for a cute photo. Handheld, just out the window sort of thing.
Oh, my goodness.
Like this one, right? Ready to attack me? Really? Just kind of yawning. But it's all in when you capture that moment, you know? So it's amazing. These cameras have, you know, this one has 8 frames per second. That one's 10 frames per second. And it's amazing what you don't catch in that time. You can blast the thing and take 10 frames in a second and not get the one thing. They're now coming out with these mirrorless cameras that don't actually move the mirror when you take the shot. These things are like 30, 40 frames per second. Problem is then you got to go home and look through. Easily on a morning that I'm going out and taking pictures and finding some random stuff, easily 300 or 400 photos, and delete 290 of them to 390 of them. Maybe get 10 that I'm happy with. Maybe get 1 or 2 that I'll post on Instagram or something. I post a lot on Instagram, mostly because I kind of not into the rhetoric and the politics and all this stuff that you see. And I kind of feel this is a non-controversial subject that you can just kind of post out there and people like it, right? Yeah. So again, this was probably the coolest coyote I've ever seen. Just kind of hung there, took a few photos, and then moved on my way. This was another case sitting at the bird sanctuary, not really doing much. Start seeing something moving around the pond. There's a little mink. There's no head minks around here. But here's a buck. Who knew we had bucks in Marblehead? This is right down the Stony Brook entrance into Steer Swamp. Amazing. I mean, I've seen them. I've almost hit one going down West Shore Drive, but it's cool that they're running all over the place. This one wasn't very good at hiding. This was a red-shouldered hawk. A little morning snack, and this was on my way to the bird sanctuary. I didn't even get into the bird sanctuary, and wheeling over and jumping out with my camera to try to get a picture, but not scare the bird, you know. Gulfwaite's a great area. Reason being is like in the morning, you get that good light depending on which angle you're shooting from. And in the afternoon and evening, you can still get a really good light. So that's not all wildlife, right? I mean, we were treated twice this year to the aurora, which was like, bucket list thing for me, and I was happy to see it, right? Incidentally, last night it was seen around New England. Sleeping.
Wow.
The only problem with this is someone had some lights on, which gave it a lot of light pollution. And again, these shots are the same thing. That was done with a small lens. Don't need to spend a lot of money. A longer exposure. You wouldn't see that bright color with your naked eye, but when the camera sees all. It's cool with the rainbow color. This was down at Grace Oliver's. Neat thing about this was it was probably 2 a.m. and there was probably 15, 20 people down there. Just standing there going, where is it? And so.
Oh.
You wouldn't see it like that, but the camera sees it. I mean, when you leave that exposure open, really, it's like when you walk out of the house and you look at the stars and you don't see the stars for a few minutes. Excuse me, adjust. You start seeing all the stars more. Camera just sees it. In fact, I'll show some photos later that I do stacking, where I'll take 300 images, then you stack them together. So in the first image, you might see something. By the time you stack all those images together in the computer, you see like amazing stuff. We have winter. I believe a harp seal. You have that wrong. They frequent the harbor a lot in the winter. A lot down by Flat Rock, Barnacle. I've seen them several times. They hang out. People call the animal rescue and say something's wrong, and they say no, there's not. They just come up and hang out, leave them alone. They'll be fine. That's what usually happens.
Wow.
Handheld shot. And again, I'm a little bit of blur, but I'm shooting the handheld camera at like 1/1500th of a second, I guess. I take the shot. This was, I was driving home from work, coming down Beacon Street, saw something going on down there, jumped out, and sure enough, a eagle was chasing the ducks down at beach. They got one.
Oh.
Glorious shots. To see a bald eagle in Marblehead. You're seeing more and more of them. A different year, actually. A mink. I don't know if it's the same mink, but it was the same bird sanctuary. You just can be just running around. These guys are all in and around most of the lands that I go to. Sanctuary. Again, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. I mean, yeah. Be careful. You don't know if they're rabid or something like that. So it's not like you're gonna go chase them. Kind of walk away. Again, backyard, school, just finding, cardinals. Cardinals are great. Another great place to find these animals, cemetery.
Oh.
I've seen bald eagles. Steer swamp bird. eastern screech owl that was in the middle of town by Lee Mansion. And that tree is no longer there either. And this was last year. They took it down over the summer. It was a dead tree. I mean, it blatantly needed to be taken down. But again, they had seen it in there, half a dozen times. One of those cases where I heard the birds going crazy, nuthatches just going crazy, all in one area. Just kept looking and looking and looking and looking. And finally, sure enough, there's a great horned owl hiding in there. It was over by the capped area of the transfer station, the backside of Sear Swamp area.
Oh, that's a pretty one.
Serious great horned owl.
So many different varieties.
That's, the early morning is the best. So I love going in the early morning, twofold, because the light's really good. But also if you get real early, the contrast, to me anyhow, makes it easier to see the outline of an owl in a tree and find it. And then I don't always take the photos at that point. I may come back and wait till the light's on it and then get the photo, but at least I know where it is. I will go in the afternoon, but the morning is my favorite time. Plus, when the people get out with their dogs and all that stuff seems to back their way into the woods a little more. Again, all these photos are taken from a trail or from the car or something. You're not trudging through the woods or anything by any means for any of these. Things across the front, but so when you start seeing paired up owls, that's when stuff gets interesting. In the spring it's going to be fun in there. It'll be fun in there in the spring because it means babies. And babies are fun to shoot. Like it's cool to see them. Always a stick. There's always a stick that wrecks the picture. Like this. Right in Black Joe's Pond towards Beacon Street around the horse paddock area. And Betty Hunt called me, which was first of all awesome in itself, to say, you tell Rick Cuzner there's a screech owl across the street from my house, so when she calls, you go, like it's just you go. And so that was really neat. That was right on the corner of Warren Street. I saw it one day. I've never seen it back. But I have a feeling that this was the same owl because this was the little harbor boatyard there hanging out, and it was there for a few days. Tree. This is a longhorn owl, which not that they're rare around here, but you just don't see them a lot. They're usually very buried in the top of pines. There's been one up at Salisbury for a long time. They've actually quarantined off an area. So if you go up to Salisbury, you can't miss it because they've already put nets around it so you can see. But this one was local, which is really neat to see. Owls. This one was at Gulf Weight. So I've only seen 4 snowy owls in town. The rest of them are usually up around Cape Ann. Nahant. I had seen it down there the night before, but it was sort of snowing still, and it was way off in the distance. The light was going down. I knew the next day it was going to be nice and sunny. So I got over there in the morning. I had my tripod on the sidewalk along that wood fence, posted meat fence. It was out there very far, sure enough. And I was sitting there. The thing got up and flew, and it landed probably 30 feet in front of me, almost too close because I had this. It was like too close. For a minute, and then flew back. Morning is when you want to find these guys because they have their eyes open. As the day goes on, they kind of start closing their eyes up, and that was, to me, it was a treat to see it right in town. One that a friend had called me. He's like, "You gotta get over to Castle Rock, right next to the castle." was sitting on the roof with crows. That's why it was squawking right.
Oh.
Now this one, I was driving down West Shore Drive and the yellow house on Bloodhorn Playground. I was sitting on the roof, snapped a few photos. Of course, I didn't have my real camera, so I ran home, got my camera, and I came back. It wasn't there. I just kind of drove around, and then down on the name of the road by Bennett Road. Harold Hansen was a mechanic in town. That's his house. It was just sitting on the roof. I don't know what the green is. Yep, just cool as a cucumber. Was up at Plum Island. This is, I like walking the beaches of Plum Island. Most of the photographers are generally lazy up there. Like they'll drive up and down the street with their car with their windows open and shoot out the window. When you get out and you start walking the beach, you find some really cool stuff. So more often than not, we'll find a snowy. When you see two snowies, I mean, actually Crane Beach. I actually have another photo I should have brought. It was a different perspective, and you can see the trustee's truck driving by, like in the background. It couldn't have been 50 feet away. So in the winter, when I get really bored, I do a lot of backyard astrophotography. These are the images I was talking about where I'll set up camera, that lens actually. I put it on what's called a star tracker. And what the star tracker does is it moves the camera on the same axis as the Earth and the stars are moving. So it makes it so that stars don't technically move in relation to the camera lens. You can take longer exposures, and it allows you to take, 200-300 photos, merge them together, and you get a lot of detail like that. I'm in a galaxy and Orion Nebula here. That's Orion Nebula, and this is called the Rosette Nebula. Neat thinking, you're seeing this from the backyard in Marblehead.
Amazing.
Cameo of the Castle Rock, the Milky Way. Again, really easy shot. Set your camera to 30-second exposure, which is about the max that most cameras do without a timer. Wide angle lens, low f-stop, 1.42, whatever you got, and just start taking some photos, and eventually you'll get one. I mean, that's a single shot. So you start seeing the color. Also have great storm ones. Like the reason I put this in here is I'm kind of proud of it because it was on the Marblehead town meeting book, which was kind of like really neat for me. I mean, Devereaux Beach just getting blasted. Wow. It was insane. And again, that was just
Where are you standing?
Red Rock, Red Stops. Sometimes I get really bored when it's really cold out and it's snowing. And I have a hat that I stick in the freezer. And my wife always asks why. Oh, it's so you can go out and catch snowflakes, obviously, and they won't melt because it's cold. I built where I put my camera on it. You can adjust it up and down, get a little light ring on it, and take some snowflake photos. My neighbors all think I'm crazy, but we've already established that fact. It's all good. Something else. Brings us to spring, right? So spring means one thing is babies. Like, what's cuter than a golf ball running down the beach? This is a plover chick. Don't see a lot of plovers here. This one was, I believe, Gloucester. Again, easy to find. You just go onto these long beaches and you look for where they fenced off areas and you just sit there and, the key is to not move. You just sit there. They'll start running around sooner or later and, they're kind of inquisitive. They all hide. There's about 6 of them under there, hiding underneath the mother. Do have around here a lot of is killdeer. River Beach, Gulf Wade area. Cool thing about killdeer is when they sense a threat, they play dead, go away from the babies. So they just lay on the ground like they have a broken wing.
Oh, gee.
Babies are running somewhere else. The crest of the sand at Gulf Wade looking in. Of course, the ospreys, which I love. They're cool. See the yellow eye of the adult, then the babies of the red eye. I don't know at what year it changes, but when they get adult, their eyes turn yellow. So when I'm out fishing in the Salem Harbor or whatnot, you can just watch the parents flying back and forth, getting pogies and stuff and bringing them back to the nest. Really kind of cool.
Oh.
Random, gray fox, which you don't see a lot of. This was crazy because it was down by the barnacle. Springtime. And when you see a fox running around in the daylight in the morning, in the springtime, you know it's got babies somewhere, right? So I would go down there. I just park on the side of the road and hang out for a few. Start a couple times.
Oh.
Later, you find a little baby running around the seawall. I only saw the one.
Oh, my goodness.
This is Red Spawn. Going up to give my respects to General John Glover. And I find a fox in the field there, rolling around, throwing the vole up in the air, catching it, rolling around some more, throwing it up again. Just kept doing it. Really neat to watch. By me. Owls. This was actually in a friend's yard. We had helped put up a screech owl box, and we have a camera in it. And we saw when the eggs were laid, we saw the eggs hatch. And this was one of the babies when it first fled the nest, one of the adults. On a main road, sidewalk by Robinson's farm. Fledged, they all went into Robinson's farm. I found them all in a tree. This was the first day they fledged. I came by in the morning. They were no longer in the nest. And again, you hear the nuthatches going crazy, and you're looking around, and across the street, this was just sitting in a random tree. You know where this is?
Like yours.
I haven't seen them up there in a few years, but there was a good few years that, every year there'd be a set of babies coming out of the wood duck. Last time there, a squirrel came out. So see when they're up there. When the spring comes and the leaves start filling in, stuff just has a tendency to disappear. That's probably why I don't go in the woods as much during the winter. I mean, during the summer looking for owls, because you just can't find them. These are the three that I found in the tree in Robinson's farm.
Rick, can you speak up just a little bit?
On Robinson's farm after they had fledged the nest. Oh yeah, you can.
Oh, look at that.
Owls.
Wow.
I mean, you cannot sneak up on a great horned owl nest. Like they see you a mile away.
Oh.
Flying lessons. This is actually a different nest. This was in Greenlawn Cemetery, I believe. See it. This is not a rarity, but yellow crown night herons. This was in the Marblehead Bird Sanctuary, and they had built a nest. Unfortunately, all the leaves came in, and you'd never see it again.
Oh.
Random drive-by, just saw something sticking out of Swans, Grace Oliver's. And then this cormorant was from Red's Pond, which I've seen them in there here and there, but not often. I love the eye on this one. All the finches, I mean, not the finches, the warblers and stuff during the migrations in the spring is amazing. The bird sanctuary, Steer Swamp, that whole area is amazing. The birds, if you go in there. Now, if you just walk in there and just expect like you're going to see something walking through, you usually don't. If you sit there and stop and look at a bush for a few minutes, all of a sudden you see stuff start moving. And oh, look at the yellow one. Look at, I mean, it's amazing. You really got to stop and just watch for a minute.
Where are the turkeys?
Yes. Shot from Red's Pond.
Sorry, from where?
Used to be a farm in the back of Red's Pond area. Areas. Well, this may not be a great photo. It's the coolest thing that standing on Devereux Beach, seeing one of 400 northern right whales swim the beach from the shore in the spring. It was really neat to be able to see that. By the nose. Photos and
Really great. Yeah, really great.
questions by all means.
I've only been seeing one swan down by Grace Oliver's.
Yeah, I've seen as many as 13, but you're right. The last couple of times I've driven by, I've only seen one, or I'll see one and I'll see a couple over by Singing Lady Beach or something. Yeah, that's weird.
Commented about driving around and seeing all these wonderful snowy owls and so forth and so on, and taking pictures out of your car. How the heck can you drive and watch it?
Not the snowy owls, but
Well, you saw one.
it's without falling because I'm always going like lenses. I mean,
You had one on a roof on West Shore Drive, I thought.
over to see, I saw it and then banged around and took the photo. I didn't take the photo. Oh yeah.
Trouble just watching this road.
My house, all right, from Lead Mills down Beacon Street and up to my house on Stony Brook, I have seen 1, 2, 4 owls from the road.
Wow.
Just sitting there.
Rick, can you just give us the make and model of your car and the license number? So that we realize we may have to stop something.
Because I was pulled over taking a picture of that snowy owl, and Phil Summerby, the landscaper, pulls over and comes running back and goes, "I know you got something. What do you got?" And he saw this in a snowy owl. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, I said, what time of year did you see all those owls that you looked at?
Or several years. It wasn't all the same year, but so it was that screech owl, and then the one in the box that's on the way up to Steer Swamp and Black Joe's area. Yeah, it's just during the summer, to me, I'm not in the woods as much because I'm out fishing more. But there's so many leaves you can't see them. Whereas once the leaves drop, it's not easy, but once you figure it out and you start looking, screech owls are going to be in old dead trees. Well, I look in every dead tree I can find, Or there's a lot of people have put up owl houses around town. So I always kind of try to look driving by sort of thing. Whereas the great horned owls and the barred owls, I look for the biggest pine trees and just look. I mean, even to the point where I've seen white stack or whatever on the bottom of the tree, kind of looked up and be like, oh, there it is. You know, I mean, or listen for the birds. And if they're near a pine tree, like, you know, something's going on. They're all mobbing something. Yeah.
Those owl pellets that they got.
Yeah. I probably should have put some pictures in there, but I mean, it's amazing. You get these little jaw bones and stuff in there. Yeah.
Art in high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever have to defend yourself because they get aggressive and you go away?
No, not at all.
The reason I ask that is there was a screech owl in my front yard in a tree at night. And I went out to see if I could see it. It was pitch black and I could see nothing. But I stood there for a while and the bird flew out of the tree and flew and hit me in the face.
A kid that was running up by the tower school and got swiped by it was either a barred owl or a great horned owl while he was jogging. Like hit his baseball hat.
Do you have any tips for photographing wildlife with an iPhone?
It's tough. I take a lot of selfies with owls with a cell phone. I don't. I mean, today's cell phones are actually really good. The problem is when you zoom in with an iPhone, and you take your picture and then you go to print it out in a larger format, it'll be all pixelated and stuff. I mean, that's where a camera comes into play. But getting an image of it for Instagram or something like that, like cell phones are great.
I'm curious, we have a lot of turkeys, but do you ever get a picture of them roosting?
Yeah, so I get the pictures of them roosting. Picture that I've seen that I would love to get of is the mother in the tree with the babies underneath wings sort of thing. I mean, I've seen some pictures like that would be awesome to see. But I'll get the turkeys and the baby turkeys running through my yard and, get some photos of them. I probably should have put some in there, but yeah.
Rick, I know a couple of fellows who take similar pictures. Do you get together with other photographers once in a while or have a group or?
It's not so much like I have a bunch of friends at work that are doing similar things. So we bounce like when we're having a technical problem, like how to capture an image, maybe in the early morning or late at night. We'll talk and bounce ideas off each other. My friend Nate, who owns Trickster's Lures, I walk around with him in the woods a lot and we take pictures. My buddy Brian Danforth, same thing. He's probably the only one crazy enough to go drive to wherever with me to go see some whatever, But yeah, we do bounce it off each other.
Doug, who's sitting next to me last summer off Naugus Head, caught a very, very large striper, but we were more, I think, impressed with somebody near us who had a long pole and a camera, who was putting his live bait in the water and putting the camera down. And I think I saw a video of that. That was absolutely amazing.
A lot of dumb things. The GoPro in between my fishing line and a live bait and caught a striper. Thank God I still have my GoPro, but the footage was cool.
It's separate and distinct from whatever kind of communication you have with others that in this area, in the same field. Do you, from wildlife associations or other organizations on the web, do you look for tips about just where to see a particular type of owl in the morning on this kind of tree, or is it all just by your experience over the course of 20 years?
A lot of it, I mean, you can search like eBird and some of the birding reports and say like, there's been sandhill cranes seen in Ipswich, right? So I may go up there and take a ride and look for them or something like that. I'm also friends with a lot of birders that aren't photographers that we share. Like they'll say, hey, I saw whatever, and maybe they'll see one of my photos, say, hey, I'd like to see that. Where were you? that sort of thing. So we definitely share. Have to.
I hear a lot of people seem to be interested. The Greater Lynn Photographic Association, they have quite
Yeah.
bird people there, and they shoot fantastic pictures. So
Mine is a member of that. He's actually one. I knew that too.
Yeah, Rick, thinking of rare birds and working in Gloucester, did you get pictures of the Swainson hawk?
Clear. So there's the Swainson hawk, but there's also been a short-eared owl running around in there too, which I didn't see. But I did go down looking for it. And that's the day I get the picture of the coyotes running around in the, I did look.
Over the years, have you noticed either a decline in the number of wildlife or an increase, or has it stayed pretty steady?
Well, it's funny, like there's some years that I seem to see more of one type of an owl. Like last year I saw, I don't know how many different barred owls. I mean, a lot of them. But didn't see any great horns, or saw like one great horn, but then a couple of years prior, I'd seen, 5 or 6 different great horned owls. So yeah, or last year, snowy owls was a very bad year. Like I saw one, I think. This year I've seen 6 or 7 different ones. But yeah, but it's not like a longevity thing. It's just cyclical, like,
There's nothing in the environment that's killing these animals that you can tell.
Concerns me a little bit is places like the bird sanctuary. Seems like there's a lot of dead trees now. A lot of the bigger trees are just falling over in storms, it seems, and I don't understand that. That's growing in its place, which I know down by us, these guys come through and cut all the brush back and get rid of all that invasive stuff. Probably why it's doing so well in those woods. Yeah.
You seem to have to go to Ipswich or Essex to see bluebirds. Do you ever see bluebirds at any of our?
Don't around here, but I noticed somebody put a bluebird house in the bird sanctuary. Right. I mean, I usually go to Plum Island or somewhere like that and see them flying around the fields. Yeah. Else?
Thank you, Rick.